It's the annual gathering of what used to be considered mainstream conservatives in America. But since the emergence of a billionaire businessman from Manhattan in 2016,
Cowboys for Trump.
It's gradually morphed into something more like a political pilgrimage.
He's the one who's carrying the torch, who actually bring us out into the light.
A MAGA mecca for the singular worship of one man.
Nowadays, Donald Trump has remade this conference in his own image. The MAGA brigade are out in force, but perhaps just as important is who is not here. None of the big name Republican leadership, and nor is the man expected to be his main rival for the Republican nomination for president in 2024. Unsurprisingly, the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, has also decided not to turn up. But we have him here, so we decided to bring him along ourselves.
2024, Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis?
I'll have to say Donald J. Trump.
Trump. He's a baby. He's too young still.
Trump 2024, DeSantis 2028.
Oh, I'm Trump all the way.
70% Trump.
In a hall lined with Trump fringe fanatics, it's no wonder DeSantis stayed away. He's the only one who has a real chance of beating Donald Trump. Not that they'd concede that here, especially Don Jr.
Because an LGBT doesn't cover the other 9,476 freaking genders there are these days.
Who was holding court at the Make America Great Again stand when I first caught up with him.
How worried are you about Ron DeSantis challenging your father?
Not.
You're not worried? You don't think he stands a chance?
Not in the real world.
The polls would say differently, no?
Twitter is not the real world, but you got to remember that.
The latest official polls do show a bump for Trump, perhaps because he's actively campaigning, while Ron DeSantis is biding his time, using a tour for his newly released book as a soft launch, a prelude perhaps to the bitter battle for the heart of the Republican Party to come. Though signs of that angst were already evident. Of the smattering of politicians we saw, none would publicly endorse Trump.
If it's Trump or DeSantis, who will you go for?
The best one.
Can you say who that is now? You know enough about both of them.
You've got a year and a half to go,
But you know
man.
enough about both of them.
I do know enough about...
Does Trump have your support?
The best person's going to have my support.
Who do you go for?
Oh, I don't know yet. Right now, I'm focused on what we're doing in the House.
Of course, there's no shortage of extremists on the right.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Only too happy to parrot populist Trumpisms to eager ears.
They've said they're coming for our children.
These people are wedded to Trump by blood. This is their tribe, and he's their leader.
And do you genuinely think that DeSantis has a chance?
Yes, I think there's absolutely a chance. I think there's a lot of time between now and the actual first primaries. I think Trump is like a floating human Hindenburg over the Republican Party that could blow at any time. And people like DeSantis want to be ready to pick up the pieces.
One thing that could make Trump potentially blow up is his insistence on repeating the big lie of the stolen election, though apparently there's no plan to end that tactic.
Does your dad have to drop talk about the stolen election to win the next one, Don?
No, I think we better start playing the same game the Democrats have, or you're never going to win an election again.
But hasn't that proven unsuccessful for him in the midterm, for example?
No, because of exactly what the left has done. I mean, that should be pretty obvious to anyone with a brain.
So there you have it, the Trump 2024 strategy to repeat the mantra of 2020 and hope it sticks this time round. Some certainly need no persuading.
I love Trump. Of course it's going to be Trump.
Trump was the greatest president we've had in our lifetime, a great president.
But once a competitor as potentially formidable as Ron DeSantis enters the fray, maybe, just maybe, they could be persuaded to think differently.
Siobhan Kennedy chasing Republicans there in Maryland. Well, joining me now from Los Angeles is the Republican pollster and political consultant, Frank Luntz. Frank Luntz, it's great to have you back on the program. So he was described, Mr. Trump that is, as the Hindenburg that is waiting to crash over the Republican Party. Is that the way you see it, or does he actually offer them any hope of getting back into the White House?
I'm not sure he offers them any hope in the White House, but he could well be the Republican nominee. He's not the same guy. He's not the same candidate that he was 18 months ago, even 12 months ago. The January 6th hearings had an impact on Trump's support. Those who like him love him. Those who don't like him hate him. And there's no one in the middle right now. But Trump still leads nationwide, although I would warn viewers that in the critical states of Iowa and New Hampshire, Ron DeSantis has gotten even or even pulled ahead of Donald Trump. So in the end, I would take the national polling with a grain of salt. It does indicate where we stand as a political party, where the Republicans stand, but it is not an indicator of who's likely to win the nomination. Focus on the early states: New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, and Nevada.
But judging from the CPAC conference, you know, the people who stayed away and how the ones who were there actually guarded their words when it came to Trump, it looks as if the party can't live with him, but it also can't live without him.
I love that. You just said it perfect. In fact, I'm going to be stealing your line later today.
I'll be charging you.
That's exactly what it is. You can charge me. I'll pay a royalty.
Okay.
The issue for Trump is that he is still the most popular Republican, but he is disliked among independents and truly despised among Democrats. So here's a guy who is critical in a Republican primary, but turns off voters in the general election. I don't see how it's possible, unless the candidate is Joe Biden. I don't see how it's possible for Donald Trump to win a general election. However, he is the front runner right now for the GOP primary nomination.
Okay, so you said that he's changed. He's a little bit different. From the speeches that he's given, from the bits I've read on social media, he doesn't sound all that different, to be honest, to the man who ran the country a few years ago.
Well, he has not changed. Let me correct that. He has not changed, but attitudes towards him have changed. The critical issue for Republicans: do they want to relitigate 2020, or are they looking at the next election? Are they focused on the past or focused on the future? The fact that with Trump not on the ticket, they were able to take the House tells you that he's a drag on Republican votes. That said, his philosophy is still the majority Republican philosophy. His politics is still the majority of Republican politics. Make no mistake, Donald Trump is the most important Republican in America today, but make no mistake, he is less electable than many of these other candidates, including Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Mike Pompeo. He's less electable than other candidates who may seek the nomination. And
so Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who we keep talking about more and more, who Trump famously called Ron DeSanctimonious, what does he have? What's his political secret sauce that could get him to the nomination? And could he beat Joe Biden in a general election?
He's talking about woke, which bothers Americans a lot. He's talking about education, talking about kitchen table issues. He challenges corporations in a way that Republicans want to hear, and he's been a successful governor. Now, it's possible that he's gone too far. It's possible that he's emulating the Trump game plan and taken on companies that are very popular across America, a company like Disney, for example. And that doesn't sit well with most Republicans. But on crime, on jobs, on the economy, on so many areas, DeSantis has a very impressive record, a record that is equal to or better than the former president's record.
But he's not attacking Donald Trump at the moment. Should he? Do you think he will?
Should he? Absolutely not. Do I think he will? When it gets closer to the election. I realize that people want to see this election start. They want to have the intrigue of a primary campaign. The fact is, DeSantis is smart to put out the book now. The Florida legislature is still in session. I don't see DeSantis joining the fray until early summer at the earliest. But he's got a strong name ID. He's raising money hand over fist. He's going to give Trump a real run for his money. And I urge British viewers not to forget that there are other candidates that could also rise up. We are so early in this process that you don't want to anoint someone king, or in our case, president, before the election.
Okay, Frank Luntz, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.